And I'm sitting in a chair and I'm reading Thoreau. And I just thought, if my friends in town could see me now, they wouldn't believe it.
And I got a degree in fine art. And when I moved here, what was I supposed to do with that?
And I would walk into a house knowing that there's not electricity, and I would flip the light switch for like 2 years.
Visiting here, I was quite touched by the fact that everything here is regarded as sacred.
Just because we're different. Anybody that dares to be different is mysterious.
I think that's it.
Nice to be next to you.
The story of the land begins in Lamoni, Iowa. With a population of 2,267, Lamoni is a small town just across the Missouri border. It's as quaint and wholesome as the Midwest gets. My grandma, Kathy Nowlin, is a longtime resident of Lamoni. My family and I often gather at her house to celebrate the holidays and enjoy each other's company.
This is Mom's.
It just so happens that my grandma was one of the many who turned to the land for guidance and spiritual freedom.
I think it's probably about 30 years ago. And at that time, all the people were in town. And the overseer was able to purchase some land and thought that the community would have a lot more freedom.
With the persecution in town, we just decided we were going to buy and try it. My wife and I, we just sold out, and we bought this land, and we decided we're just going to see what we can do, and we're going to make it work. I don't care if we have to dig the garden with a shovel, and we were determined we're just going to make it work.
I was going to Graceland, 7 miles from here, and I was getting a business major. It seemed interesting, and came to church a couple times, and just the more that I came here, I felt like I had to do something different with my life.
I was asked on my first day here why I was here, and I said, well, I think the Lord's telling me to move here, and so I came to check it out and see if I could hack it.
I came to this community about 3 years ago. I was living in another community, and I was looking for a community that was a little bit more agricultural based. I was living in a Christian community, but looking for another Christian community that was living a little closer to the land, and that certainly is the case here.
I was the first one born out here. I was born in this village, and then I lived my life here.
But that was the main reason. It's because I believed in what they were doing, and I wanted to try it, to see. So I just went.
Practicing religion is a huge part of living out on the land. They are what is known as a First Commandment society, meaning that they dedicate every minute of the day to worshiping God.
We are Dead Sea Scroll Essenes, and Essenes were the original Christians. In terms of our religious experience living here, it enables us to make our religion a part of everything that we do all day long.
We call it living away from the distractions of the world. You know, living the way that we do. We're kind of isolated from a lot of the distractions. Our whole life can be directed at God, to Him, with Him, for Him. And so it's to the place where, you know, living here, I can actually know what He's feeling. I can have Him tell me things. I can feel things about my neighbors. I can feel His worries about things that are going on in the world and different things like that. And it's like, it's all the time. It's not just on Sunday.
When I was living in the world, and I had a job and all the everything, busyness that's all around you, the entertainment, the music that's constantly in your head, it's almost like God had to yell at me to get my attention, you know. He had to like break through all of the other stuff, my job, the music, the television, all of those things were distractions that he had to try and get to me through.
Like, say, what we eat and everything we do, even the clothes we wear, what we build our houses out of, all that relates back to our view of the life that God put into everything. Everything on the earth, the hills, even rocks, wind, all the plants, rivers, oceans, mountains, everything is in a continual state of worship.
The whole foundation of our religion is that God is so personable that and his love is so immense that he made the whole world for each person, like they're the only person that exists.
Some of the things we did came from the Native Americans. What I appreciated about the religion was that the belief that the spirit of the universe, or God, whatever you want to call it, could communicate with people. And that all the land, all our scriptures talked about the trees and the earth and all of the things were together, were connected.
Going from the transition of living in a society that just uses everything to living in one that lives with everything and respects everything, you feel with the things around you and learn how to respect things at a new level. And we try here to be more deliberate with our use of, say, water and what it does to us and for us. We don't have any running water here, so we carry all of our water. So I wash dishes, and then when I take it out, and when I pour it out, we don't just like fling it off in the bushes or anything like that. You pour it out of the ground, and you respect the water, and you thank it for its service to you because it was clean, and it either washed your clothes or it washed your dishes, and it took what was dirty on you, whether your hands or whatever, took what was dirty on you, and it took that dirt when it was clean and to cleanse us. And so you recognize what the service that it has done for you.
So it's not that we're worshiping a tree, or it's not that we're worshiping, the clouds. It's that we're worshiping God, who's in all of those things. And so that's why we live separate. That's why we live and build our own houses. That's why we do everything that we do, is to try to experience that and to live in accordance to the ones that are faithful, and to try to reject and keep aside the ones that aren't.
It was mainly the religious message, yes, because we weren't real excited about the lifestyle, but that was part of it. That was part of the religious experience for those people.
The lifestyle on the land is anything but ordinary. Without the comforts of electricity and running water, those who live on the land must grow their own food, make their own clothes, and build their own homes. This way of life allows them to be almost entirely self-sufficient, and it truly is a marvel to see.
Instead of what the world does, is they always have to have more. And so our basic goal is to have less. So that's what's resulted in us being so self-sufficient.
We grow most of our feed for animals. So we grow our corn and our oats and our wheat. We feed our corn and our wheat to our chickens, I guess oats too. The fact that you're growing your own food that you're going to eat is definitely a challenge, because when you don't have a good crop, or your crop fails, or you couldn't take care of it well, or it was too wet to get in or something, you kind of have to be in the mind frame to be okay with something less. Everything is seasonal, of course, so we deal with the crops and everything in the summertime. With that, you're dealing with our cattle, and we usually get our meat through our cattle. So that takes having to organize breeding rotations, and you're also breeding at a certain time to be able to get the calves weaned off at a certain time. Also to be able to keep your milk production up. We use a lot of milk here.
I mean, they spend a lot of time cutting wood. Of course, there's a lot fewer people now, so they don't have to use up so much wood, but if you use it for heating, you use it for cooking. I mean, it's a lot of wood. And those guys are strong. They don't use a chainsaw. They use a saw or an axe is what they do. What I was going to tell you, when they first started out there, I mean, they were there several years before I went out. And they didn't think they were going to use horses. They thought they were going to do everything by hand. Well, they soon figured out that was not going to work. And of course, they've got gorgeous horses out. If you saw, did you see any of their horses? Yeah, they're wonderful horses.
When we decided how we're going to run the shops, instead of getting a diesel motor like the Amish do, we decided we're going to figure out how to do it with horses where we don't have to buy anything. And then when we got horses, we decided we were going to have to figure out how not to have to buy harnesses and collars. So we decided we were going to make our own.
When I was first out there, they did their laundry, we did, on a scrub board. And then a few years before I left there, we bought the old Maytag washing machines. And they were run by horses.
Maytag washing machine run
by a horse. And they had what they called a horsepower thing. Anyway, it's this thing that's on a wheel. And then the horse, he goes around and around, and he's hooked up to the machine. It was kind of a rod thing, and then it was hooked up to the horsepower, and as he would go, the horse would go around. It would make the machine go, and then if he got tired, he'd stop, and the machine would stop. Anyway, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget the first time I was out there.
I had some money when I came here, and I was dating my wife. She's my fiance at the time, and so we were thinking, hey, we're gonna need a house, and I had just spent $5,000 to get lumber. It wasn't enough for everything that I needed, but it's a good start to get me started. And she was looking for some cob bread ovens, and she found out about the company that teaches workshops called Cob Cottage. The council talked about it, and they said we would like to send some people, and we'd like to build a couple houses just to see how we felt. So we went out and we learned 10 days how to build them. We didn't finish one in 10 days as a workshop, but we got pretty far. And then we came back and started building 2 houses. And one of the things that we've learned is that we can have community days. And so we'll either get all the guys, or we'll even get some of the women out here, and we'll get enough tarps and we'll mix it up, and we can put on a lot at one time.
The important part is to make sure it all sticks together. So I use my thumbs and I push down together. It's like sewing. You stitch the 2 layers together.
Wow.
And make it one solid piece. And then I just form the outside shape to whatever shape I want.
Almost every summer since then, there's probably only been 1 or 2 summers since then, we've been building cob houses. So, and it's been really fun because we've had people come different places in Iowa, and they'll come even stay here sometimes. We'll have people come and cob with us a few days, and because it's a big investment to build something like that yourself, and it's a lot of work, but it's awesome. And I probably wouldn't live in a wood house. Not that they're bad, I feel so attached to it.
Day-to-day work, I get up and I tidy up the house. I make breakfast for my husband, pack his lunch for work. A lot of times he'll go out and he'll work for, half a mile down the road or whatever, and it's just easier to pack him a lunch. Most of my work is seasonal. So like my daily work changes seasonally. In the springtime, we move into starting seedlings and getting ready for gardening, starting the garden, planting, and then it moves into summertime where you're gardening full time. The garden's busiest season is from May through July is when I'm working in the garden the most. Starting sometime in July, the real canning season starts. I start canning anything from start off probably with green beans, and then in August the tomatoes start, and so I'm canning from July, August, and September is my main canning season. So that takes up a lot of my time. Then I do sewing. I start processing wool.
The men shear the sheep, and those women card that wool and they spin it. They're fantastic spinners. They've all got spinning wheels.
In order to spin the wool that we get off the sheeps, I have to run it through the drum carder. That side a little bit more. It's all straight and smooth and ready for spinning. Wow. Yes, wintertime is the spinning, the knitting, the crocheting, the sewing.
They make the most gorgeous sweaters and stuff. How they have time to do all that, I don't know, but they do it. Yeah, there's nothing they can't do, I'm telling you. They make all their own clothes. It's amazing what they do. And there's a feeling about wearing something that somebody's made. It's like if your mother made you a shirt or something. It's your mother did it for you, if you liked it,
So we don't sell anything we make with our hands. Everything that we make for our hands, we say is unto the Lord. Well, so we sell cattle and sheep because we don't make those with our hands, and only 2 or 3 people are actually involved in dealing with it, so all of us aren't on a daily basis connected to what we're selling. We're able to maintain not having to have money. Our actual living is probably less than $2 a day per person. It's a certain freedom. We don't have to worry about paying utilities. We just don't have to worry about paying our taxes, and we have some medical things we do and stuff like that, but the freedom of not wanting things and not always having something you want that you don't have and never having enough, and so all that's led to an extraordinary kind of thing. These 3 grandsons that you've been talking to have never touched money in their whole life, and they're married with children. I mean, actually had it in their hand. And so they don't want anything. They can go to a shopping center and go buy clothing stores and hardware stores and fishing stores, sport goods stores. And they don't want anything.
So in the summer it was gardening and canning, and then in the winter that's when you had school.
That are compound words. Now
we are ready. We could have been homeschooled, but we decided to be a satellite school and have the kids enrolled in school in town and have a state certified teacher, and yet have our own school here, so that we had constant contact with them and had a good relationship with the educational system.
It's kind of nice that the older curriculum, in a way, fits more with us. So, it might be a little dated, but the world's changed a lot since in the last, it seems like the last few years, every time it's changing quite a bit. And so some of the older books, the stories reflect more of kind of how we live and stuff than, because none of our kids, we don't use cell phones out here.
And a computer.
We don't use
so
computers.
So much now is geared for computers and electronics.
So the older books, the way they tell stories and stuff, fit more with kind of how we do it. So in a way, it kind of works out nicer.
And so, in the very, very beginnings, you just had no idea what you wanted to use. That was 25, 30 years ago. You started from scratch. But by now, we kind of know what we like, and we tailor it to each child. That's the nice thing about our school, is every child gets tailor-made curriculum just that works best for them, and by now we know what we like, and so we've collected it and kept it.
You remember? 12, and so we will call them
the 12 disciples, they were very, very, very good friends with Jesus and went with him everywhere to help him teach. All right, and what did I tell you? We learned a new word. Do you remember the new word we learned?
Miracle.
A miracle. So we learned a new word, a miracle. Jesus and his friends, his disciples, are involved in helping people so wonderfully that it seems like a miracle.
Although they keep to themselves, the people on the land are not free from criticism. Over the years, they have experienced their fair share of ridicule from the outside world.
If people were to refer to this place as like a cult, how does that make you feel?
It actually draws up compassion in me.
I mean, I got hit with that when I first moved here. And, of course, when I first moved here, it just made me mad.
I can understand where they're coming from, but, yeah, it makes me sad.
Well, when I first moved out here, I would get pretty hot because I took it really personal. And we still have people that say things like that.
When people use that word in terms of us, it's either coming from something they don't understand or ignorance.
Words are very powerful, and the word cult is a very powerful word. They use it as a fear word because it's a scary sounding word, and they use it to try and deflect people away from something that they're afraid of.
Communities are different. You know, people are choosing to live differently than obviously the people in town, and different is always scary in one way or another, because I don't understand you, because you are different from me.
Anytime something is different, you're going to have people who are like really curious and want to just go find out, and you're going to have people who are like, I'm not sure, and then you're going to have people who are just, I'm against that because it's different.
They feel like, I don't understand why someone would not want to have money, or I don't understand why they would want to live together or live without electricity or anything like that.
If I ever have contact with them, I try to address that insecurity by being friendly and inviting them out, or talking to them about their life, and say, wow, I'm sure you're sure doing a good job doing this or whatever, to try to address that.
What we do here cannot be a cult. And the reason I know that is because of how we make decisions, how we do it together, how we don't have one person telling us what to do.
Even by definition, we're not a cult. A cult is a new religion, and we're older than Christianity.
People are people, no matter where you go. And so knowing that about people, it's like, it's just easy to, know that that's just where they're at. So it doesn't bother me anymore.
Nice to be next to you. Nice to be